we're going to do this. This has a very good chance to be... Well, this has a very good chance to be something that can maybe do pretty good in terms of content. I'm going to very quickly post this. Here, let me grab the link first. Yeah, it's gonna take me a couple minutes just to get this stream going, but I mean, if anyone wants to join in the discussion, they are more than welcome to. The only problem is I'm not going to be able to see the chat for a second. I'm just really quickly going to promote this. I'm not going to do it there. Let's see. I'll go right here. I'm just going to make it. Do that. Link. Paste. Done. Post it there. I think that's really the only place that'll be interesting to talk about. Now I can go here, there, and I can start this off. So not only is this going to be like a live discussion, it's also going to be me recording this video. I'm putting this video on my YouTube page, and I think this has a chance to do well, so I'll give it a shot. If it doesn't do well, I had fun making it, so there's the factor in that. But yeah, I guess I'll just start off. I'm doing this like a movie startup, or whatever you want to call it. Take one, I guess, of doing my intro. Action. Every Cubs fan remembers where they were on November 2nd, 2016 at approximately 11:47 p.m. Central Time. Me personally, I was 11 years old, and I was sitting on my couch watching the Chicago Cubs become world champions for the first time in over 100 years. And 10 years later, they might do it again. But this is not what we're going to talk about today. Today, we're going to talk about this 2016 team 10 years later. Cue the intro. Now I'm going to play the intro, and I'm just going to hop right in. Next take. Now that's a banger of an intro. In this video, we're going to talk about the 2016 Chicago Cubs team 10 years later. Obviously, the Cubs won the World Series. They had the first overall seed. They had the MVP. They had a loaded roster. And in this video, we're going to talk about just the team in general, how they did, and all the things they had to overcome, because they had to overcome a lot. So Let's start off. I'm kind of gonna go like the baseball voices that was made about this. I think it was 2018. Um, I think the order went pardon me, the season, the postseason, the individual playoff series, the World Series, and then I think there was something else, but I don't remember. Um, so let's just hop right in. Um, First of all, before going into the main part of the season prior, the Cubs made the playoffs for the first time since 2008. Or the season prior, yeah. The season prior, the Cubs made the playoffs for the first time since 2008. In that playoff appearance, they won their first playoff game since 2003 because in that 2008 playoff appearance, they got swept by the Dodgers. Um, and they ended up running all the way to the championship series where they got swept by the Mets. And I remember that very vividly. That was not a good time to be a Cubs fan. But the very next season, I mean, we all had hope. Did this team have World Series hopes? No, because, I mean, it had been over 100 years. And honestly, I don't think anyone thought that the Cubs would ever win a World Series ever again. Although there were some people that had hope. I myself was one of them because I was a child and I was just getting into baseball. So let's very quickly highlight April and May. So starting off, opening day in Anaheim against the Angels, and then the road trip in the West continued in Arizona. That was the game. That was the series. It was literally the third game of the season where we lost Kyle Schwarber, who, believe it or not, was a Cub at one point. Kyle Schwarber to a really bad knee injury in a collision with Dexter Fowler, and that put him out for the entire season, which he would have really helped in the outfield, but it didn't end up panning out. The first home series was against the Reds. It was a sweep. Lost a series against the Rockies. Then went on the road to St. Louis, Cincinnati, Milwaukee back at home. Then the Braves, Pirates, Nationals, which that one was interesting because of the what's it called? Mother's Day game where Javier Baez, I think it was a come from behind win. I don't remember too much, but I think it was a come from behind win. Javier Baez hit a walk-off home run against the Washington Nationals, and that ended up being a sweep, a 4-game sweep, which is, you don't really see those often, which, I mean, when someone does that, it's pretty cool. One thing I did forget, that Red Series in April, that was when Jake Arrieta threw his second career no-hitter. I do remember this one pretty well. I do know the final was 16-0, and the Reds had no hits. And I mean, I love seeing Jake Arrieta in his prime. Like the season prior, he won the Cy Young, and seeing him throw this no-hitter cemented maybe this guy could be something. And then later on in the season, it wasn't just Arrieta, but the entire pitching staff was elite and dominant. And it ended up carrying all throughout the season, all the way up to November. But moving on, series against the Padres didn't go well. Then the Pirates, Brewers, Giants, both losses. Cardinals in St. Louis was a win. Swept the Phillies at home, and then took a 3-1 series, or took a 3-1 4-game series against the Dodgers at home. So it was a pretty productive April and May. Real quickly, I'm going to do quick math. 2, 5, 8, 9, 11, 14, 16, 15, 18, 22, 23, 25, 26, 27, 29, 32, 35 wins in these 2 months. That's pretty good. That's a pretty good start to the year. I do remember a bunch of other teams with similar or not so similar starts. One comes to mind, the 19 Nationals. What was it? They had a 19-31 start, and then ran the table, won the World Series. That was an interesting series to watch. But this is about the Cubs. Let's see. I don't think there's anything else to really talk about in terms of April and May. June and July. This was probably the lowest point of the season, which, I mean, you look at all of these series and I see a lot of zeros. Starting off at home with the D-backs, on the road with the Phillies, Braves. Those went okay, only lost 3 games out of those 3 series. The Nationals gave us some problems, which they had a really good team as well. Bryce Harper was in the prime of his young career. Zimmerman was doing well. Rendon was starting to get good. Trey Turner was making his rookie appearances, I guess. I mean, they were good. There's a reason they ended up as the 2nd seed in the NL in this season. I can't talk. This series in particular against the Nationals didn't go so well. Rebounded with the sweep against the Pirates. You always like sweeping the Pirates, but then followed up with a sweep, with losing a sweep against the Cardinals. Never a good time to get swept by the Cardinals. Series in Miami didn't go so well. Only salvaged 1 win. Followed it up with sweeping the Reds for some reason, and then getting swept on the road by the Mets. That road sweep against the Mets felt all too familiar to the NLCS the season prior. The Reds and Braves didn't go so well. Only winning 1 against the Reds, and then I think this was a rescheduled game on July 7th, which we lost. In Pittsburgh, lost a series against the Pirates, and then won a series at home against the Texas Rangers, which the Texas Rangers finished as the 1st seed in the AL that year, and it would have been very interesting to see a Rangers-Cubs World Series, which is at first what I thought was going to happen, but later on in the postseason, I found out, this isn't happening. I accidentally put at Mets. I think this was the home series against the Mets. We ended up winning that. And then in late July against the Brewers in Milwaukee, I actually went to one of these games when I was younger. I remember Dexter Fowler hitting a leadoff home run and the Cubs just dominating the rest of the way. So that was actually a very fun game to watch. I went there. I went to Milwaukee to see it, and I mean, Milwaukee, very nice stadium. Terrible name. They need to fix it. Then the Crosstown series against the White Sox, which we ended up splitting. And then the, the Mariners series, which we ended up doing well. Quick talk about these pictures that I put on the slide. Up top, you have the Chris Bryant Full House game, which came in late June against the Reds. Hit 3 home runs and 2 doubles. No one's ever done that before, and he did it. That is, I guess, what they call in Vegas a full house. I am too young to gamble, so I don't know. But Chris Bryant further cementing MVP. Wilson Contreras made his major league debut in the series against the which one was it? I think it was the Pirates. Yeah, that sweep against the Pirates in mid-June. It was the Father's Day game. It was broadcasted nationwide on ESPN, and Wilson Contreras in his first major league at bat hit a home run, which is really cool. Mid-July, the All-Star Game happened. This was a particularly fun All-Star Game to see as a Cubs fan, at least. And, I mean, look at what happened. 7 All-Stars for the Cubs. Like, if that doesn't show you that this team is dominant, then I don't know what does. And not only that, the entire infield were all-star starters. Starters. Not bench players, starters. The only thing that would have made it better is if a guy like either Arrieta or Lester started the game, which that wasn't happening, but, I mean, it would have been cool. I think it was Johnny Cueto that started that game for the NL in that All-Star game, which I thought was an interesting choice. We're going to talk about the individual players later on, but 7 All-Stars for the Cubs, that's pretty cool. And then you have the John Lester walk-off bunt. That one was electric. And that game in particular was a very interesting game. I remember this because it was not Pedro Strop, although he did play left field at one point when he was with the Cubs because Joe Maddon just had a very weird style of play. He put Lester in as a pinch hitter because I don't think the Cubs had anyone left on the bench, and John Lester isn't really known for being a hitter. I mean, before he came to the Cubs, he spent his entire career in the American League where pitchers did not hit. Eventually, Lester actually did hit a couple of home runs in his career, which was pretty cool, but this one was his hitting highlight of his career. The walk-off bunt against Seattle. And, the other thing I was going to talk about, which I didn't do, Travis Wood, pitcher, played left field, and he made a really good catch up against the Ivy, and that's what I remember defensively of that game. So, yeah, June and July wasn't really the greatest, but a lot of cool things happened. In August and September, there's a lot of stuff that happened. Sweeping the Marlins, sweeping the Athletics, sweeping the Angels already. 8 wins like that. Splitting with the Cardinals, sweeping the Brewers, losing a series against the Rockies. They really struggled against the Rockies this year, didn't they? Sweeping the Padres, coming out with only 1 win against the Dodgers, sweeping the Pirates, and then losing only 1 to the Giants. I actually remember this Giants series. I was at one of those games. It was I think it went 13 innings, and Jason Hayward won the game on a bloop single. That was a marathon, but I survived, and I watched the game, and it was a lot of fun. And then winning only 1 against the Brewers. I forgot to put the Astros series. I think they won it because the Astros weren't that good that year. We got the Cardinals winning 2, losing 1. The Brewers, I think that 1 win was the Miguel Montero walk-off homer to win the division, which the Cubs won the division, and they won the division by 17.5 games, which is a lot. Imagine doing that now. That's kind of hard to do because, I mean, the NL Central is actually pretty loaded. The Cubs are surging. The Brewers are still good. Actually, maybe it's not as loaded as I think. The Reds should be doing better, and then the Cardinals and Pirates, they still stink. I guess it's not as loaded as I originally thought. Oh, well. But 17.5 games was it's a pretty sizable margin. And then we got sweeping the Reds, winning a series against the Cardinals, winning a series against the Pirates, and then the Reds. The one against the Pirates at the end of September is really interesting. There was one game that they tied. It was the final game for the Pirates, and or at least it was the final game for the Pirates at home, and it got rained out. and it was a 1-1 tie, and they couldn't reschedule the game because they wouldn't be able to reschedule it until October, and I think the deadline for games was like October 2nd, which is the last game that the Cubs played in, and it was in Cincinnati, so they couldn't really reschedule the game, so it ended in a 1-1 tie. You don't see that every day, and you really shouldn't, because that should never happen. But all in all, the Cubs finished 103-58-1. Technically, that one tie should count in the standings. It doesn't, but either way, they won the division by 17.5 games, and they had the 1 seed locked up by a pretty sizable margin. They were the only team that won over 100 games, and basing the pictures that I got here up top, I think is the Hayward walk-off hit. I tried to look for it, and that was the best I could find, and I think that's it. I don't know. The Miguel Montero walk-off homer, Aroldis Chapman, because Aroldis Chapman, that dude is insane. He's still insane. And then NL Central champions, first time. Wait, what picture is this? 2016? I think it is. Why did the guy on the right, for whatever reason, looks like Justin Turner? The Cubs didn't win the the division in 25. So I don't know why I thought that was Justin Turner, because I know on the left side of the picture that's definitely Rizzo. But in a nutshell, that's how the season went for the Cubs. And moving on to the postseason, this is essentially what it was. Cubs were the first seed, Washington the second seed, Los Angeles the third seed, New York Mets 4, and Giants 5. In the American League, because I figured I'd cover this as well, you had Texas as 1, Cleveland as 2, Boston 3, Toronto 4, and Baltimore 5. Obviously, the Blue Jays-Orioles game, that one was insane. It ended on a walk-off home run by Edwin. I don't really remember much from the Boston-Cleveland series other than Cleveland dominated. Texas, I don't know what happened to Texas, but Toronto dominated them. Toronto had a really good team in 2016, and they really should have gone to the World Series. The Cubs still would have beaten them, but I think they should have gone to the World Series. I think that was Josh Donaldson who won AL MVP. Yeah, I think Toronto should have gone further than they did, but oh well. And then Cleveland ended up dominating Toronto, even with Trevor Bauer's exploded finger. But yeah, that's that. On the NL side, I don't remember too much from the Dodgers-Nationals series other than the Dodgers winning in a very close 5 games. The wild card game, I was really concerned about because I didn't want to face the Mets again. Previous season, a lot of people remember Mets sweep the Cubs to go to the World Series, got their butts kicked in the World Series, but they denied the Cubs from going. And I mean, the Mets-Giants wild card game, it was a very close battle, and it was a pitcher's duel. It was 0-0 going to the 9th, and then I think it was Connor Gillespie hit a home run, gave the Giants the lead, and Mad Bum took it the rest of the way. In the DS, Cubs-Giants, we'll talk about that, and then Cubs face the Dodgers, again, talk about it later, to go to the World Series for the first time since 45, and then go to the World Series, and then ultimately win it in 7 for the first time since 1908. We're going to talk about these individual series right now, starting with the NLDS against the Giants. This one I was only a little concerned about because, I mean, the Giants, they were a good team, and they were kind of putting together a pattern. They won in 2010, 2012, and 2014, all those World Series. If fate was right, they would win this year and massively upset the Cubs. That thankfully didn't happen because, I mean, luck was on the Cubs' side and a lot of good things happened. Game 1, pitcher's duel between, I think it was John Lester and Johnny Cueto. No score after 7.5, and then Javier Baez hits a home run in the bottom of the 8th with, I think, 2 outs. Give the Cubs the lead. Chapman closed the door. 1-0 Cubs lead. Game 2, this one is kind of interesting. You had Kyle Hendricks. He got an RBI in this game. And, that was pretty cool. But he then took a line drive to the chest later on, and then he had to get taken out. John Lester ended up coming in. Not John Lester. Travis Wood came in, and Joe Maddon let him hit because Travis Wood, he was a really good hitter, and he hit a home run. So that's pretty cool. Speaking of pitchers hitting home runs, in Game 3, that's what Jake Arrieta did. We're going to talk about Jake Arrieta in a second because what he did this year was kind of funny. He hit a home run, and then there was one point in the 9th. Chris Bryant hit a home run to tie the game, send it to extras, and then I think it was Albert Almora with his defensive prowess that allowed the game to go to extras, and then ultimately the Cubs lost that game, but they held on for a few extra innings, and that was pretty cool. Game 4 was not the greatest. I think it was 5-2 Giants going to the 9th, and the Cubs, they had to rally, and they certainly rallied, coming all the way back and winning the game and winning the series and advancing to the championship series for the second straight year. If I'm trying to remember individual things that happened in this game, all I remember is the Zobrist double and the Zobrist double. That scored 1, and then a Wilson Contreras 2-run single that tied the game, and then a Javier Baez single that gave the Cubs the lead. That's what I really remember from that game. And Cubs win. That was pretty cool. They would now go on to face the Dodgers in the championship series, and it was a back-and-forth affair in every single game. Up to the 7th inning in Game 1, game tied at 3. Obviously, Miguel Montero hits a grand slam. The Game 1 hero gave the Cubs a 7-3 lead. The very next pitch, Dexter Fowler hit a home run, and that really cemented the game at 8-3. Cubs take that win. Game 2 and 3 did not go the Cubs' way. They lost both games. And what I really remember is Addison Russell showing off his young abilities as, a young guy. And he had a really good series. That's what I really remember for the Cubs. They ended up winning 2 more games in L.A. To take a 3-2 series lead. Back to Chicago. What I really remember from Game 6, the Wilson Contreras home run right down the line off of Clayton Kershaw. That one really cemented it. The Cubs ended up shutting out the Dodgers 5-0, and they would go to the World Series for the first time in 71 years, which that alone is a long time. But, hey, they made it to the dance. And, they got one final really tough opponent ahead of them. The Cleveland Indians. This one, the start of this World Series was really bad. One of the big pluses that the Cubs got from this series, they got Kyle Schwarber back. It was rumored that he was going to come back. I didn't actually think he was going to come back because what was it, a torn ACL or something like that? Yeah, you don't come back from that in the same year. Schwarber did. And not only that, he got, 7 hits in the World Series as a DH? He obviously couldn't play in the outfield, but he could do DH, and he did really good. He had 7 hits, and he drove in 4 runs, which I mean, once Game 7 came around and he did that, I mean, yeah, he was back. But, yeah, Game 1 did not go the Cubs' way. They did not win that game. They would win the next game, which I think is where that Zobrist picture was taken. I don't really remember much from that game, but, I mean, the Cubs did win. Game 3 and 4 did not go the Cubs' way. They lost. But Game 5 was a massive win. And, I mean, it really, that was one of the loudest crowds in Wrigley Field history, I believe. I wasn't personally there, but I know it was loud. The Cubs were back in the series, but they had to win the next one to force a do-or-die 7th game, and that's exactly what they did. In blowout fashion, a 9-3 win, cemented by a Addison Russell grand slam. And, yeah, that really forced a do-or-die Game 7. Game 7 of the 2016 World Series. You can disagree with me all you want. This is the greatest baseball game ever played. I don't care what fan you are. I don't care where you come from. I don't care what your opinion is. This is the greatest baseball game that has ever been played. And it is the definition of a storybook ending for the Cubs. First at bat of the game, already a great start for the Cubs. Dexter Fowler hitting a leadoff home run. Like, you can't start Game 7 any better than that. Not only that, Corey Kluber was the starter for Cleveland. Was he? I think he won the Cy Young this year. I don't really remember. But it was off of Corey Kluber, who really struggled in this game. And 1-0 Cubs. Cleveland would tie it up later on, I think in like the second or third inning. It was a Carlos Santana single. I do remember that. They tie the game at 1. Then in the next few innings, you got Kyle Schwarber right there. He had an RBI. I know Wilson Contreras had an RBI. That made it 3-1. And then in the 4th inning, Javier Baez hit a home run. That made it 4-1. Cleveland, I think, would then get a little bit closer. I think it'd make it 4-3 by the 6th inning. And then David Ross, in his final MLB game, hit a home run to dead center. Like, that doesn't get more textbook ending for a player than that. Hitting a home run in your final game in Game 7 of the World Series as a 39-year-old grandpa. He wasn't a grandpa, but his nickname was Grandpa because, I mean, he had facial hair like a grandpa, and he was completely bald, but he had David Ross. That was huge. Made it a 6-3 game. And then the bottom of the 8th inning, that's where everything started to fall apart. Pitching-wise, Kyle Hendricks started the game. He did really well. I think he got pulled after like 4 innings. John Lester came in. He did really well. I don't think he gave up any runs. But eventually, relievers got to come out. Lester came out. They brought in Aroldis Chapman, and Chapman didn't do good. I'll be completely honest. He did not do good. In the bottom of the 8th inning, he gave up 3 runs. 2 of those 3 runs coming off a Rajai Davis 2-run homer that tied the game at 6. And man, that was soul-crushing right there. I was like, oh no, we're going to lose. And that also came with 2 outs in the 8th inning. 2 outs and 2 strikes in the 8th inning, and Davis hit a home run. And, I mean, the game was tied. Thankfully, the Cubs would keep it tied, and with some defensive help for Cleveland from Francisco Lindor, Cleveland kept it a 6-6 game, and then I know his last name is Allen, I forget his first name, able to hold the Cubs in the 9th inning, and Chapman was able to hold Cleveland in the 9th inning to send Game 7 into extra innings, which, Game 7 in extra innings in the World Series, nonetheless, is a lot of fun to watch. You go back to this past World Series, LA and Toronto. That Game 7 went to 11 innings, and, it was back and forth, unfortunately, and I say unfortunately because I really don't like the Dodgers. Unfortunately, the Dodgers did end up winning, but it was still a very entertaining Game 7. I couldn't watch the game personally until I got home. I think I got home for like the bottom of the 7th on. I had to work, but that was a fun end of the game to watch. But anyways, moving back to the Cubs game. So 9 innings are in the books. It begins to rain, and they go through a 17-minute rain delay, which, that really ices the players up a lot. And first batter, Kyle Schwarber, single, right down the line. He was either right down the line or right up the middle. I don't remember. But either way, Kyle Schwarber's on first base. He gets pinch ran for by Almora, and that's the go-ahead run. Very next batter was Chris Bryant. He hit a long drive to right center, and it was about, if he had an extra 10, 20 feet, it would have gotten out. But it was still deep enough for Albert Almora to tag, and Almora's a fast guy, and he ended up taking second base. So that was pretty clutch. I think they ended up they intentionally walked Anthony Rizzo to put runners at first and second with 1 out. They wanted the force out to get out of the inning. That wouldn't happen. Ben Zobrist hit a double right down the left field line to give the Cubs a 7-6 lead. 2 runners still on with 1 out, and the Cubs, they're not done yet. I think after that, they intentionally walked Russell after that, and then Miguel Montero, he had a single to the left side that gave the Cubs an 8-6 lead. And that would technically be the winning run because Cleveland would score again in the bottom of the 10th. Speaking of the bottom of the 10th, Carl Edwards Jr., a rookie pitcher, comes in to try and slam the door because Chapman, if they kept Chapman out there, the Cubs probably lose this game. But Carl Edwards Jr., who had a very decent rookie year, comes in, gets the first 2 batters out, 1 with a strikeout, 1 with a grounder up the middle. 1 out away from a world championship, and that is where it started to kind of fall apart. Edwards walks Brandon Guyer, and then it brings up Rajai Davis once again. Guyer steals second base uncontested, and then Rajai Davis hits a single up the middle to score another run for Cleveland, 8-7, and that was when oh no. And not only this, Rajai Davis has wheels. He can run really fast. So that was worrisome. The next batter ended up being a pinch hitter. It was Michael Martinez. And no matter which pitcher Madden wanted to throw in, it would switch the batter up because switch hitter. He ended up going with Mike Montgomery, who the Cubs had just acquired from Seattle in the trade deadline in exchange for Daniel Vogelbach, because Vogelbach he started his career in the Cubs farm system. He never played a game for the Cubs, but he started out with the Cubs. I think the Cubs kind of regret that decision because Vogelbach is kind of like a pretty good player now. I haven't really seen him in the stat sheets that much nowadays. I should probably check that out. But we got Mike Montgomery in the most important situation of his entire career. You got 2 outs, bottom of the 10th, Game 7 of the World Series. The tying run is on first base. The batter's Michael Martinez. He takes the first pitch for a strike. On the second pitch, he hits a very slow roller to Chris Bryant at third base, and he fires to first. Game over. Cubs are world champions in 2016, and it was almost midnight Chicago time, and I was way too tired to celebrate. I kind of just I kind of just sat there and I was like, "Yay, we won! We won it all!" I think that's how I was like. Maybe I acted a different way. Who knows? Um, but this was single-handedly. You could disagree with me all you want. This was the greatest baseball game ever played, and I will take that to the grave. Now, we have the series all wrapped up. What did I have next? Oh yeah, I looked up the Cubs roster in 2016, and it gave me the top 12 players from the team, at least in terms of WAR. So you got Chris Bryant, Anthony Rizzo, John Lester, Kyle Hendricks, Jake Arrieta, Dexter Fowler, Addison Russell, Ben Zobrist, Javier Baez, John Lackey, and David Ross for some reason, and Wilson Contreras. Bryant obviously won MVP. He was an all-star starter. Rizzo won a Gold Glove and a Silver Slugger, was also an all-star. John Lester was co-NLCS MVP with Baez, and he was also an all-star. Kyle Hendricks, he had the ERA title, 2.13 ERA. How he didn't make an all-star game is beyond me, but Kyle Hendricks, yeah, he was amazing. He also almost threw a no-hitter in this season, which I forgot to mention. He got to the ninth, giving up no hits, and then gave up a home run, which was very unfortunate. But either way, Kyle Hendricks, an amazing player. Jake Arrieta, this one's funny. He was an all-star. He had a 3.1 ERA, but he also got a Silver Slugger because Arrieta was a pretty good hitter. Not only that, he also hit like a 450-foot bomb in Arizona at one point, and that was insane. Yeah, Jake Arrieta, at the time, this was his prime. The season prior, he won the Cy Young. He was pretty good. Dexter Fowler was an all-star. Had a 4.0 WAR. Didn't really do too much other than that. Addison Russell was an all-star. We're going to talk about him in a second. Ben Zobrist was an all-star. World Series MVP for obvious reasons. Baez, a 2.7 WAR. NLCS MVP. It was pretty good. I don't know why John Lackey is on this list, but John Lackey, a 3.35 ERA, which, I mean, no one's touching Kyle Hendricks, but whatever. David Ross, for some reason, is on this list at 1.7. And Wilson Contreras, despite being towards the bottom, the reason he's at the bottom was he didn't play the entire season. But, I mean, he was still good to start. And then the next season, that's when he really started to break out as a really good player. Unfortunately, I think he tore his hamstring in the middle of 2017. He missed it was either a torn hamstring or a pulled hamstring, which you never want to see. But that kind of derailed his season. Next season, he would end up making the All-Star game. He would make two others in his career. And now he just got traded to Boston, so we'll see if he's still going to be good after this year. But with all of these players, one of the main things that comes first is coaching. And that is why we got Joe Maddon right here. Now, Joe Maddon, he was an interesting manager. Made a lot of interesting decisions, like putting pitchers as hitters and pitchers as outfielders. He's made those decisions time in and time out. It was really weird, and I thought to myself, like, why is he doing this? And, I mean, it throws players off. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. You put Travis Wood in the outfield, he does good. You put position players as pitchers, maybe they do good. Who knows? But anyways, Joe Maddon, the start of his managerial career in the MLB was in 1996. He was in the Angels farm system as a manager, and he ended up doing the interim job for the Angels in 96 and 99. He was not on, I think he was in the farm system when the Angels won in 2002, but he was technically their interim manager when they were looking for their main manager, which ended up being Mike Scioscia, which ended up giving them the World Series. Eventually, in 2006, he would get the job in Tampa Bay. And it's very hard for me to tell who the greatest manager in Tampa Bay Rays history is. It's either him or Kevin Cash. Kevin Cash has probably made more playoffs than Madden, and he's actually lasted longer. I think this is now Cash's 12th year, which I don't know how he still has his job. They should probably move on at some point. But Joe Madden, he even ended up taking Tampa Bay to a World Series. Won an AL pennant in 2008, didn't win the World Series, didn't even come close, but he went to the World Series, and he ended up taking a really bad team from 2007 and turning them into a really good team in 2006. I mean, look at that. If he has that ability to get teams on the run again, that was definitely a fit for the Cubs. He ended up staying with Tampa Bay until 2014. 2015, got the Cubs job, took them to the playoffs, won their first playoff game since 2003, and almost took the Cubs to the World Series if it wasn't for the stinking Mets. Either way, good first season. Second season, obviously won the World Series. The next season, the Cubs ended up winning the division, and they went all the way to the championship series once again, where they unfortunately had to run into the 106-win Dodger team. They went to the World Series and not the Cubs. That was the last time that the Cubs technically, in quotes, won a playoff series. I don't count the wild card series. I think the wild card series should just be a wild card game. That's my opinion. You can have your own. But that is when the Cubs won an actual playoff series last, 2017 against the Nationals. That one was really close. But 2017, won a playoff series, almost went to the World Series once again. That was probably the greatest stretch the Cubs have ever had in terms of, well, maybe not. 1907, 1908, they did win back-to-back World Series, but that was when the league was in its infancy. 2018 wasn't the greatest. They ended up finishing second in the division, and they had to play in the wild card game against Colorado, and they somehow lost that game. Colorado would end up getting smoked by Milwaukee, and all was that. What's really ridiculous is they did play a 163rd game because the Cubs and the Brewers were tied for first place. The Brewers ended up winning in the 9th inning, which was annoying, but hey, it happens. 2019, unfortunately, the Cubs did miss the playoffs, and that gave Joe Madden his walking papers. And not only that, that was going to be the end of Theo Epstein for the Cubs. And Theo Epstein was the president of baseball operations, and he essentially acted as the general manager. The general manager at the time, and still the general manager today, is Jed Hoyer. They both have done really well. Theo Epstein was the Cubs president of baseball operations, I think all the way back in 2011. He built the Red Sox to a couple of championships. I think it was 04 and 07, or maybe just 07. I don't really remember, but Theo Epstein, I was too young to know at the time, but looking back, this was an amazing pick for the Cubs, and Epstein ended up getting a lot of good players, building the right organization, getting the manager, and working with Jed Hoyer for all of these years, which putting up with that guy probably took a lot. But anyways, 2019, that kind of spilt the end for Joe Madden and Theo Epstein, and essentially this Cubs team. They tried their darnest to get back to 2016 form. They couldn't do it. In 2020, Joe Madden would get the Angels manager job permanently this time. He didn't do good. I'll be honest with you, he did not do good. I think the highlight of his Angels manager career in 2020 to 2022 was the spring training in 2020 when Rizzo was talking to Madden and being like, I miss you, all that kind of stuff. In his career, Joe Madden won an AL pennant, won an NL pennant, won a World Series, 11 total winning seasons between his Tampa Bay and Cubs manager career. He never had a winning season with LA. 9 total playoff appearances, 3 with the Cubs, 6 with the Rays, and 3-time Manager of the Year. And he's currently retired. He's 72 now, so I don't think he's coming back. He has 48 total years in pro baseball, which, I mean, tip my cap to Joe Maddon. He gave the Cubs what they wanted, a World Series, and, I mean, there you go. Now, we are going to discuss the players. The reason that the Cubs got to this point was the players. And, I mean, whenever I look at 2016 Chicago Cubs, one guy comes to mind, and that's Kris Bryant. Kris Bryant, throughout his career, let's see what he did. In 2010, he was drafted out of high school to Toronto. He didn't sign, but you're going to see a theme. A lot of these players got drafted out of high school, which is very interesting. I guess if I played baseball in high school, maybe I could have gotten drafted. No, I was not good. But anyways, he didn't sign with Toronto when he got drafted out of high school. Instead, went to college, and eventually 2013 drafted 2nd overall to the Cubs. And eventually he would make his debut in 2015, became an all-star, participated in the home run derby, won NL Rookie of the Year. Unfortunately, he did lead the NL in strikeouts with 199, which is a lot. But when you're a rookie, you take chances, and you want to swing at the ball as many times as you can, which obviously he did. So, Kris Bryant, 2015, yeah, off to a good start. 2016, it would get better. Was starting as an all-star. He won NL MVP, led the NL in WAR and runs, a 7.3 WAR and 121 runs scored, which that's pretty cool. The fact he scored all those runs. I think he hit like 39 home runs. And mind you, this is 2016, and Bryant at the time was only 24. So we were all thinking, man, this guy has a chance to be a face of the league and a Hall of Famer. In the year 2026, I no longer think that is going to be the case, which I still love Kris Bryant. He's still one of my favorite all-time players, but he couldn't really get the magic back from his prime early in his career. In 2019 and 2021, he was an all-star. In 2021, the same day, this day, I don't remember when it was the trade deadline of 2021. That was the darkest day, being a Cubs fan. Bryant, at the 11th hour, was traded to San Francisco for Alexander Canario and Caleb Killian. Both guys I don't think played for the Cubs at all. I think Canario maybe, but I don't know. In 2022, he was a free agent. He ended up signing with Colorado. 7 years, $182 million. So essentially, the Rockies are paying for him not to play for the team. He's only played 170 games in 4 years, which, I mean, you do the math, and that's not a lot. That's barely one season. So Bryant, not doing so good. And also this week, he was put on the 60-day IL for back problems, which, as a tall guy, I get it. He's 6'5", I'm 6'3", I also have back problems, and I'm only 20. So, I mean, I get it, but it really sucks. Kris Bryant had a lot of potential in his career, and, I mean, he was good for a little bit, but wasn't able to recreate his MVP days. So, we don't know. He's still technically playing, but we don't really know his future. So that's Kris Bryant for you. And you can't have 2016 World Series Cubs without Kris Bryant and his running mate, Anthony Rizzo. Anthony Rizzo in 2007 was drafted out of high school to the Red Sox. He was the player to be named later in the San Diego trade that got the Red Sox Adrian Gonzalez. So that was interesting. So they essentially traded Adrian Gonzalez for Anthony Rizzo. And I mean, you look at it nowadays, that would actually be a decent trade. Adrian Gonzalez, though, he might be heading to the Hall of Fame if he's not in it already, and Rizzo maybe, I don't know. He made his debut in 2011 with the Padres. In 2012, he was traded to the Cubs in the deal that involved Andrew Cashner. Got off to a slow start, but then really picked up speed, and, I mean, he became one of the greatest players in franchise history. His numbers going on the foul poles. 2014, he was an All-Star. 2015, he was an All-Star. Participated in the Home Run Derby, led the NL in games played. No one got to 162, and Rizzo got to 160. Led the NL in plate appearances, 701. That's a lot. Led the MLB in hit by pitches at 30 for some reason. I have that as a stat. Which, I mean, he stands really far into the box, and he's got long arms, so he's got the reach, so that's probably why he got hit so much. 2016, All-Star starter, won a Gold Glove and a Silver Slugger. Really good year. 2018, 19, and 20, he won Gold Gloves. He was a defensive mastermind at first base. And unfortunately, the same day as Bryant, Rizzo got traded to the New York Yankees for Alexander Vizcaino and Kevin Alcantara. I think Alcantara is still with the team. I don't know if Vizcaino is. But in his time with the Yankees, played decently. Went to a World Series with the Yankees in 24. Should have won. I really would have liked to see him win again. But after that World Series run with the Yankees, he announced his retirement in 2024, and he is now a Cubs ambassador. He's a Cubs lifer. I mean, you don't look at the Chicago Cubs and you don't think of Anthony Rizzo. This man is, I love him. He's an amazing guy. Yeah, no hard feelings for Rizzo. I love him. Who do I have next? Jon Lester. Jon Lester. This is a very loaded career for him. In 2002, he was drafted out of high school to the Boston Red Sox. He makes his debut in 2006. He wins a World Series with the Red Sox in 2007. In 2008, he throws a no-hitter. That's pretty cool. When you throw a no-hitter, I mean, that's cool. I mean, I always throw that in as a stat because it's hard to do that. 2010, he was an All-Star, and he led the American League in strikeouts per 9 at 9.7, which is really good. I don't really remember. I didn't look at the stat sheet long enough to find out how many complete games he had, but Jon Lester was the king of complete games when he was with the Cubs at the very least. He was a really good pitcher. 2011, he was an All-Star. 2013, he was still with the Red Sox, and he won another World Series with them. In 2014, he was an All-Star, and then at the deadline, he was a part of the deal that the Red Sox were able to land Yoenis Cespedes. He has not played in the league for a number of years, but Yoenis Cespedes at the time, I mean, he was a beast. He was really good. In 2015, he signed as a free agent with the Cubs. 2016, was an All-Star, and he led the National League in win-loss percentage at .792. 2018, he was an All-Star, and he led the National League in wins with 18. Really good. 2019, unfortunately, he led the National League in hits allowed at 205. That was probably the downside of his Cubs tenure. 2021, he was a free agent, ended up signing with Washington. At the deadline, he was traded to the St. Louis Cardinals, and in 2022, he announced his retirement. I don't know what he's doing nowadays, but that's Jon Lester for you. The fact that he didn't win a Cy Young is sinful, but Jon Lester, hell of a player. Kyle Hendricks. He was the guy on the Cubs that lasted the longest after the World Series, and I'll tell you how in a second. 2008, drafted out of high school to the Angels, didn't sign. 2011, drafted to Texas. 2012, he was traded to the Cubs in the deal that got the Rangers Ryan Dempster. Dempster is now a Cubs ambassador. I know that. So, I mean, Cubs still win the trade. 2014, he makes his debut. 2016, he won the ERA title at 2.13, and he led the MLB in ERA plus at 1.96, which, how he didn't get into the running for Cy. Who won Cy Young in 2016? Because I know Lester, Hendricks, and Arrieta finished in the top 4 for NL Cy Young, but none of them won. Who did win? NL Cy Young 2016. Oh, it was Max Scherzer. Yeah, okay. Yeah, Scherzer, he can have that. He was a beast. But anyways, 2020, that is where Hendricks started to decline. He led the MLB in walks per 9 with less than 1, and he led the NL in strikeout to walk ratio at 8.0. 2021, unfortunately, led the MLB with 200 hits allowed. That is where he started to fall off. After 21, he did start to pick it back up, but it was too late. In 2024, he was a free agent. He signed with the Angels, ended up staying there for a season, and in 2025, he announced his retirement, and he is now a co-ambassador for the Cubs, which is really cool. I mean, he's the best pitcher the Cubs have had for a while. He was the best pitcher the Cubs had for a while. I remember this guy all the time when I think of the Cubs. Don't have a World Series team, Cubs 2016, without Kyle Hendricks. You kind of need him. Next, I had Arrieta. This is a weird picture of him. He had a very weird pitching stance, but, I mean, it's Arrieta. In 2004, he was drafted out of high school to the Reds. Did not sign with them. 2005, his first year out of college, drafted to Milwaukee. Didn't sign with them. 2007, drafted to Baltimore. He finally signed with them. He makes his debut in 2010. Doesn't really do anything interesting until 2013, where he was traded with Pedro Strop to the Cubs. I don't remember who it was for, but he was traded to the Cubs in 2013. 2015, that was the best year of his career. He threw his first no-hitter against the Dodgers. He won the NL Cy Young. He led the MLB with 22 wins, led the NL in starts with 33, led the league in complete games and shutouts. I had to remember that for a second. 4 complete games, 3 of them shutouts, really good. Led the MLB in hits per 9, 5.9, and led the MLB in home runs per 9, 0.4. You could not hit a home run off this guy to save your life in 2015. He was that good. In 2016, he threw his second no-hitter. Unfortunately, led the National League in wild pitches at 16. Led the MLB in hits per 9 at 6.3. And he won a Silver Slugger because he was a pretty good hitter. I forgot to throw on the 2016. He was also an All-Star. Yeah, Arrieta in his time with the Cubs was really good. In 2018, he was a free agent. He ended up signing with the Phillies. Didn't do anything interesting outside of this one incident in one game with Todd Frazier against the Mets. In 2021, he was a free agent. He signed back with the Cubs. Didn't do good at all. So the Cubs cut him. The Padres signed him. Didn't do good there. And in 2022, he finally gave up and he announced his retirement. I don't know what he's doing nowadays, but I just hope he's doing well because he was a really good pitcher. Very nice beard, too. That's something my dad, who has a very long beard, would always appreciate about Jake Arrieta. He had a really good beard. Moving on, though. Dexter Fowler. I remember this guy a lot. I used to like him when I was younger. I liked him when he played for the Cubs. Anyways, 2004, drafted out of high school to Colorado, makes his debut in 2008. 2010, he led the league in triples. He was a very fast guy. 2014, he was traded to Houston for a guy named Jordan Lyles. 2015, he was traded to the Cubs for Luis Valbuena. Real quickly, rest in peace, Luis Valbuena. He was a pretty good player, and he was a player gone too soon. Rest in peace, Luis Valbuena. 2016, he was an All-Star. After that, didn't really do much. After the World Series, he was a free agent, signed with St. Louis, spent a number of years in St. Louis. He was pretty productive, although the dagger that really drove it into the hearts of Cubs fans, he had a walk-off home run against the Cubs one year, and I wasn't happy about that. 2021, he was traded to the Angels. I forgot who it was with, or who it was for, but traded to the Angels. He got to reunite with Joe Madden at least. That was pretty cool. 2023, he announced his retirement, and I believe he is a co-ambassador for the Cubs nowadays. So Dexter Fowler, gotta love him. Great guy. Moving on. Addison Russell. You cannot explain a fallout more, like, terrible, I guess, than Addison Russell. In 2012, he was drafted out of high school 11th overall to the Oakland Athletics. In 2014, he was traded to the Cubs in the deal that got the A's Jeff Samardzija. In 2015, he made his debut. 2016, he was an all-star. Unfortunately, after that, in 2018, he was suspended for domestic violence violation. I'm not going to explain the details. You can look that up on your own time because I don't want to get in trouble, and honestly, I really don't like reading it. But he was suspended for DV violation in 2019. The Cubs cut him from 2020 to 24 at the earliest or at the latest. He's played in multiple leagues in Korea and Mexico, but he has not played in the MLB since 2018. That is a young career cut short for all the wrong reasons. So, I hope you're getting some help, Addy. I know the city of Chicago is still rooting for you. Ben Zobrist. This guy also kind of fell off. 2004, he was drafted to Houston. 2006, he was traded to to Tampa Bay for Aubrey Huff. He made his debut in 2006. 2009, he was an All-Star, and he led the American League in WAR at 8.6. 2010, he led the MLB in sac flies with 12, I guess. I put that as a stat. 2015, he was traded to Oakland for Yunel Escobar, and then at the trade deadline, he was traded to Kansas City for Sean Manaea, and he ended up winning a World Series with Kansas City, and that's all he would know for the next year. 2016, free agent, signed with his childhood team Cubs. He was an all-star starter. He won World Series MVP. That's 2 World Series in a row for Ben Zobrist, and he was, at the time, that was his prime right there. Well, his prime was really 2009 to 2016, but Ben Zobrist, gotta love him. 2019, he unfortunately had a leave of absence. I believe he was dealing with a divorce, which is, I hate to see that because at the time, I knew he loved his wife. And in 2020, he announced his retirement because he was kind of getting old. But you can't have a World Series team without Ben Zobrist. Phenomenal player. Very versatile. Could play infield and outfield. Good player when he was on the Cubs. Yeah, Ben Zobrist. Next, we got Javier Baez. 2011, he was drafted out of high school to the Cubs 9th overall. In 2014, he makes his debut. First game of his career, he hit a home run. That's pretty cool. 2018, he was an all-star, led the National League in RBIs with 111, came that close to winning MVP, and he was a Silver Slugger. He should have won MVP. I still think he should have won MVP. 2019, he was an all-star. 2020, he finally won a Gold Glove because he has amazing defense. They call him El Mago for a reason. El Mago, of course, meaning magician. I loved his defense. It was amazing. 2021, in the trade deadline that got rid of Bryant and Rizzo, he was traded to the New York Mets, and this is one that the Cubs actually won. He was traded to the New York Mets for Pete Crow Armstrong, and the Cubs, they definitely won that trade. Pete Crow Armstrong in 2026, set to be an amazing player. He's one of my favorite players on the team, and the Cubs got him. He was the best prospect at the time, and it's showing now. Unfortunately, in 2021, Baez also led the NL in strikeouts at 184. He wasn't that good, and he wouldn't be good until 25. 2022, he was a free agent. He went to Detroit. And in 2025, he was an all-star, probably because the American League ran out of shortstops to start in the all-star game. Or as outfielder, I don't remember. But Javier Baez, still technically an all-star. Yeah, at least he's playing for a good team. And at least he's still playing, unlike a lot of the players that I have listed. Good Lord, why do I have this guy on here? John Lackey. The only thing that he's done for the Cubs at all. He didn't come for the jewelry. He didn't come to play baseball. He came for a damn haircut. That's always the joke that we like to put around with John Lackey. Because, I mean, when he was with the Cubs, he was not good. I'll be honest, he was not good. In 1999, he was drafted to the Angels, makes his debut in 2002, won a World Series all the way back with the Angels. 2003, he led the American League in shutouts. In 2005, he led the American League in home runs per 9 at .6, which is good. 2006, again, led the AL in shutouts. 2007 was the best year of his career. He was an all-star. He led the AL in ERA at 3.01, led the AL in shutouts again, and an ERA plus of 150. He was a free agent in 2009, signed with Boston. In 2011, he led the MLB in earned runs and hit by pitches, 114 and 19 specifically. In 2012, he did not play. He had Tommy John surgery. 2013, he won a World Series with the Red Sox. 2014, he was traded to the Cardinals for Joe Kelly. 2015, he led the NL in games started at 33. Free agent in 2016, he signed with the Cubs. And in 2017, because he was probably really bad, he announced his retirement. So John Lackey, good when we needed him, just didn't need him. And this is arguably a worse player to have on this list. David Ross. In 1995, drafted out of high school to the Dodgers, did not sign with them, went to college. 1998, drafted to the Dodgers. 2002, he makes his debut. He had his first career home run off of Mark Grace. That's funny. 2005, he was sold to Pittsburgh. He wasn't cut by the Dodgers. He was sold to them. In that same season at the deadline, I believe, traded to San Diego. 2006, traded to Cincinnati. 2008, he was released, signed with the Red Sox, free agent at the end of the season, then signed with Atlanta. 2012, he was a free agent, signed with Boston, won a World Series in 2015. 2014, free agent, signed with the Cubs. After the World Series in 2016, announced his retirement. 2020, became Cubs manager, won the Central, didn't do jack squat after that. Traded the entire team away at the deadline in 21, had a losing season, not 1 but 2 years in a row. Had a winning season in 23, had the greatest chance, squandered it. David Ross, fired. I don't know what he's up to nowadays. I heard he was one of the front runners for the Braves job, but he didn't get it. So, and now the Cubs manager is Craig Counsell, and they seem to be doing good. Just hopefully they do better this year than they did last year. Moving on, I think this is the last player, Wilson Contreras. In 2009, he was an undrafted free agent at 17 when he signed with the Cubs. Made his debut in 2016. First home run in his first at-bat. I mean, you got to give him credit for that. 2018 and 19, he was an all-star. 2020, led the league in hit by pitches because he's a big guy. 22, he was an all-star. And at the deadline, he was traded to the Cardinals. I don't think it was at the deadline. I think it was at the end of the season. He was traded to the Cardinals, and then this offseason, he was traded to the Red Sox. So we'll see if he's able to rebound what he did in the prime of his career, because he has a lot of potential still. So we'll see what happens there. And I think that's it. I have other notable players. Jason Hayward, the Cubs got him. I think he was a free agent in 2015, or we traded for him. Who knows? But they got him. Hayward was a really good player. I think he's still technically playing. I think he plays for the Astros now. I don't remember. But the Cubs ended up cutting him in 22. Either that or he was a free agent. I don't know. Miguel Montero, he never really had a good relationship with the Cubs, but he was good when we needed him. but ended up getting cut in 2017, and he's since retired. Jorge Soler, post-Cubs career, really good. He's won a World Series MVP. He's made multiple All-Star games, and I think he's still with Atlanta. Maybe. I don't know. Matt Caesar. If you've never heard of this guy before, well, let me tell you. This guy, here's a guy, I'm sounding like Collinsworth. Here's a guy that the Cubs utilized a lot as a pinch hitter. Got the job done a lot, and, I mean, he was serviceable. And I think he was like a top trade target at the deadline in 2017, something like that. But eventually ended up getting traded to San Diego, I believe. But if you want a really good pinch hitter, I give you the Tommy La Stella. After his Cubs career, he ended up making All-Star games. I don't know what he's doing nowadays. I don't know if he's retired or if he's still playing, but when he was with the Cubs, really good. Chris Coghlan, another guy, a pinch hitter guy. When he was a rookie, I do remember he won Rookie of the Year, but that's all that I really remember with Chris Coghlan. Albert Almora, he was good. He was a good defender, decent hitter. Yeah, Albert Almora. Kyle Schwarber, obviously, he didn't really play a lot. He didn't really play at all in 2016, but he's still a key piece of that team. Gave the team motivation, and he did come back in the World Series. And, I mean, you can't knock out Kyle Schwarber for nothing. I don't know what I just said. It probably didn't make any sense. But, yeah, he was really good after 2016. And, I mean, he's still one of the best players nowadays. Yeah, and he's still with the Phillies. And hopefully the Phillies can finally run all the way to the World Series this time, because that team deserves, well, maybe not after Nick Castellanos, after that incident, but who knows. This is about the Cubs. Kyle Schwarber, good. Jason Hammel, probably another guy you've never heard of. He wasn't all that great. He was a part of the Cubs rotation in 2016. And, I mean, it's something. He looked a lot like Arrieta at times, but that's only because he had a beard on his face. That's all I really remember Jason Hammel for. Travis Wood, obviously remember him a lot. Great hitter. Decent pitcher. He was good. Carl Edwards Jr., also pretty good, unless he wasn't. So, credit to him. Pedro Strop, he was a fun guy to watch, unless he was facing Yasiel Puig at the plate. Then he, I don't know, wasn't a good player, and he was an asshole at times. But, I don't know, Strop. Hector Rondon, this guy, he could throw. This guy threw 100 miles an hour. He was the Chapman before Chapman for the Cubs. And he was a decent closer when he was our closer. Justin Grimm, another closer. I mean, he had guts. And, I mean, he was good. He was good when the Cubs had him. And then, of course, you had Aroldis Chapman, who the Cubs got at the deadline. And he gave him a World Series ring, at least. He's probably going to the Hall of Fame just because he could throw 106. I think that's it. Oh, yeah. Thanks for watching. I mean, that's all I got for this discussion. If you enjoyed it, like the video. If you want to see more, subscribe. If you thought that this video was terrible and you want me to improve, let me know. If you want to see other discussions on anything, again, just let me know and I can make it happen. So, thank you very much for watching. Goodbye. Okay, I'm gonna end the stream. Nobody came anyway. I'll leave the stream archived.